This class is going to be mostly on kind of how to keep your devices operating well. We have slides with pictures specifically talking about Windows computers, Mac computers, iPhone, and Android. Um, this also covers tablets. If anyone has any questions on other devices, I've left time at the end where we're going to be able to go over that as well. These are general tips, and if anyone wants any help with these tips specifically, you can always bring your laptop or computer into the tech drop-in, which is on Wednesdays at 12 to 1 at the library. So before doing anything, I always like to say that your computer should have a backup. This is partially because anytime your computer feels sluggish or slow, or you're about to physically do something to clean it, there is a risk that your computer is going to end up being inoperable due to no fault of your own. There's various ways that static electricity can kill an electronic device. Um, at least for me, it's always a good thing just to have the peace of mind of knowing all of your data is backed up. So I have two little things. If you need a terabyte, it'll cost you about $40 to $50, and 2 terabytes is going to be about $50 to $60. So it's a pretty low standard for keeping all of your files intact. The way I generally justify this to myself is if I were to pay someone to recover the files for me, a good day, it would be about $200, and a bad day, it would be multiple thousands of dollars to recover the files. And then I have a link directly to what I use in case that is good information. So first, we'll go over some physical cleaning aspects.
Hey, Pam, got a
Yeah.
question.
This is Kath. What do you use to back up yours?
So for me, I use Synology. Synology they started as a NAS company, which is network attached storage. One of the benefits of that is I, for example, have 5 computers at my house, and the single NAS unit backs up all 5 computers. That NAS unit will also back up the entirety of my Google existence. So it backs up my Gmail, my Google Drive. It just backs up everything. The negative with the device I use for this, the Synology, is that it's fairly expensive. I think the device I'm running is about $500 just for the device, and then it's about $200 per drive that I have in it, and it has 5 drives. So it's roughly is almost $2,000 for what I use. If you are using just a normal USB, which is what I generally recommend, you will be generally using what comes on the device. So if you are using a Windows computer, devices from like Western Digital or Seagate will often come with a program installed on them that you can run, and that program will allow you to back up your files and folders on the computer. And if you are on a Mac, you would generally use your external hard drive as a time machine device, because Mac has Time Machine built in, and that's a fantastic backup and recovery tool.
So the Seagate USB, just the simple one of those, plug in and do it and pull it back out.
Yep, Seagate or Western Digital are the ones I've had pretty good success with. I generally stay away from anything that looks like it's 5 to 7 letters randomly generated, or a company that I don't recognize. I generally trust the ones that I've seen of before, like Western Digital or Seagate.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, so things you can see/touch. So you know, part of keeping your computer working its best is that the peripherals uh, are working to the best of their ability. So mouse and keyboard. If these are dirty, it can lead to situations where you are typing and something weird happens, or you're moving the mouse and it's jittery. And that can be because for the mouse, there can be dust on the sensor that it uses to determine what direction you want to move. The mouse pad you're using can also be kind of different colors or dusty, which can impact its ability to read how fast you're moving the mouse. And then with the keyboard, if something falls underneath the key, it can create a situation where the key press doesn't register, or if it's something sticky, it can act as the key repeatedly being pressed. So you will accidentally be typing incorrectly, or you'll accidentally be doing commands. So like if the, Control or Alt is stuck, quote unquote, and you press a letter such as P, you may end up constantly trying to print something, even though you don't mean to. And the way you can clean that, we go over on the next slide. The next thing, just for keeping your computer working well, is you want to make sure that your computer is elevated from the ground. What this means is you don't want it on the carpet or floor if it's a desktop computer. The reason why you don't want it there is because that's where dust lives. Dust, hair, dog hair, all of that stuff lives on the ground, and your computer, in order to cool itself, is constantly pulling air into it. So what will happen is you have dog hair on the ground, for example, at my house, because I have 2 dogs, and it's constantly trying to pull in air, and it would end up pulling in dog hair, and eventually that would clog something or cause some issue. So the easiest way to not have to worry about that as much is to keep your computer on your desk. The next thing is your computer physically hot to the touch? So you touch it and it's very warm. That can be indicative of dust in the computer or something not working properly. And the next bullet point is, has the computer been checked for dust? It's a reoccurring theme on this slide. If your computer is physically hot to the touch, we like to use compressed air. So those are those little canisters that you can buy. Or if you have a kind of one of those like the mattress inflators for like a air mattress, those are also pretty good. But anytime you're using compressed air or blowing into a computer, you want to make sure that it's turned off and not plugged into the wall. And that's just to try and protect it from electricity. For most devices, if you just turn it upside down and gently pat it, like in the case of a keyboard, you can oftentimes have stuff just fall out, which can remind you that your keyboard is something that you should be cleaning regularly, so you don't get stuck keys or something like that. On the next couple slides, I do have links to where you can get like a brush specifically for cleaning a computer and a can of compressed air that you can use. If your computer has like smudges on it, like dirty fingerprints or something of that nature, isopropyl alcohol is absolutely fantastic. You just want to make sure that you get isopropyl alcohol 70 plus, so 70% or higher. I use 90%, but that's purely because when I went to Market Basket, the one time to buy it, that was on sale, so I bought the 90% isopropyl alcohol. And the good thing about isopropyl alcohol is it theoretically won't damage kind of electrical components that are inside your computer. So you can use it very carefully, but you can use it on the inside of a computer in order to clean it. Next bullet point is cleaning gel. I can describe it, but if anyone remembers silly putty, it's kind of like silly putty, where you just like rub it on the computer. It's thick enough that it wants to stay attached to itself, so you just pull it back up, but it will basically pick up any dirt or debris. And then in conjunction with the isopropyl alcohol, you use a microfiber cloth, just because if you use something like a dish towel, or if you use a piece of paper towel, sometimes it can catch on something, and then you leave behind pieces of paper towel in a computer, which isn't a positive experience. But you can do this if your computer physically or phone looks dirty, but you also can do this if something is running really hot. It allows you to kind of clear up the airways that the computer uses to bring in the cold air in order to cool itself. For phones specifically, if you look at the bottom of your phone where the charge port is, you'll generally see speaker little holes, and those are for the speakers. And then you'll also see the charge port. Sometimes stuff will get stuck in those holes, like pocket lint. The way I generally like to deal with that is with a Q-tip. I will very gently take a Q-tip and kind of work around the inside of the opening, and you kind of just try and leverage dust out. The only real reason when you would do this is if you're experiencing your cell phone not always charging well. Oftentimes that's because there's just dust in the charge port that you need to get out. You can also try just blasting some compressed air in there, which can generally try to dislodge most of those issues. This is just an example of a computer cleaning brush. This is an example of compressed air. Compressed air is like, under $5 a can, fairly inexpensive. Cleaning brushes you can get for about $10. So if you use it more than once, it's kind of easier for you to um, procure the device and do it yourself as opposed to paying someone to clean it. And then this is the dust cleaner cleaning gel I was talking about, where you can kind of see in the image how it works. You kind of just put it over something and then you can just pull it off, and it will bring the dust and grime with it. These are generally good for about a year, and then you'll want to throw it away and get a new one. Open the computer, question mark. Before you want to do any cleaning of any device, I recommend turning it off. So for a desktop computer, this is unplugging it from the wall. For a laptop, it's telling it to shut down. And this slide is basically only useful for desktop computers at this point. Laptop computers have been built in such a way that the manufacturers don't really want to make it easy for people to open them up. And 100% for like cell phones and tablets, they don't want you to open those up. Those are generally adhered just with glue. So you actually need to pry off the screen, for example, to get at the inside. With the computer, you can open it up. You can kind of visually see if there's dust. You can use a vacuum to kind of pull out some of the dust. You can use the compressed air, and you can rub stuff down with isopropyl alcohol. If anyone wants this to be done and is slightly worried about the process, again, you can always come in on Wednesday, and we can physically take a look at it. Sometimes you'll need incredibly tiny screwdrivers to open up a computer, because again, they don't want you opening it, so they make it slightly inconvenient to do. If you plan on bringing in a laptop and want to open it up, please just give the library a heads up so I know to bring the tiny screwdrivers. I don't normally bring those with me. But it's a fairly simple process, but I do understand that the first time you open up a computer, it can be a little bit intimidating. And the next slide is kind of just tips on how to use isopropyl alcohol, just in case you wanted something that you could follow for yourself. Don't put the isopropyl alcohol directly on the computer. You put it on microfiber cloth and then apply it with the microfiber cloth. For small areas, like specifically for computer fans, what I like to do is to put the isopropyl alcohol on a Q-tip, and then I use the Q-tip to clean the fan. Light pressure, don't use anything with bleach. If you use Windex or glass cleaner, I've seen people do this a lot on their screen if their screen gets dusty. Those products will strip away the anti-reflective coating you have on your computer screen, and then it will basically make it look patchy. So if you're doing the screen of your computer or phone, isopropyl alcohol is fine. Just don't use Windex or glass cleaner. I personally use gloves. They're the tiny little gloves you'll see like in hospitals and stuff. It's like $10 for a pack of 50. I use those purely just because I don't like cleaning my hands afterwards as hard as I would need to do if I was physically touching this petrified dust directly. It also means I just, it's like there's a word for it, but like for lack of a better term, it gets me in the zone. Like I know when I put the gloves on that I'm cleaning. It just helps me like get ready, I suppose. Also, you probably shouldn't have isopropyl alcohol touch your hand too much. It'll dry out your skin, and if you're exposed to it a lot, it can cause a little bit of dryness on your hands. Not physical. The first thing, if someone's saying their computer is slow, the first thing I have them check, computer, phone, or tablet, the first thing I have them check is their hard drive. I have the direct links to how to do it in Windows and Mac, settings, system storage, or Apple menu, about this Mac, storage, manage. The rule of thumb is if you are using under 80% of your hard drive, which means you have 20% free, you're fine. The analogy I like is a garage. If your garage is 80% full, like more than 80% full, you're kind of not able to have enough space to move things around because it's so full. There's no place to put temporary items. It's very hard to move. But if you have a lot of free space in your garage, it's very easy to get to everything and it's very easy to move everything. So I like the analogy. But if you're under 80% used, your hard drive or solid state drive shouldn't be the issue. And that is the exact same advice, phone, tablet, and computer. Here's what it looks like on a Mac, and I'll quickly walk you through it. On the top right, it says Macintosh hard drive. It says 460 gigabytes of 994 gigabytes used, which means I am using less than half, which means I am happy. And the nice thing Mac has is it has the color-coded little bars, which tell you where all of your data is. The reason why this is really important is I can tell that most of my data is in documents. So if I needed to free up space on my computer, I would not go to Photos in order to free up space. I would go to Documents to free up space. Sometimes people will come in on Wednesdays and they'll say, I've been deleting photos, and we will look at this and we will see that all of their hard drive space is taken up by movies, which means you can delete as many photos as you want. You're not going to make a real big dent in your storage issue. Near the bottom of the screen, you can see applications, documents, iCloud Drive with a number next to them. That tells me exactly how many, or the size of that aspect. So I know I have 55 gigabytes of applications. I know I have 162 gigabytes of documents. So I can see with numbers where I need to go to delete files in order to free up space. Now compare this to Windows, which is a little bit more gray. They still have the bar up at the top. You can see this computer I took the screenshot of is using 62 gigabytes total, and it has 1.75 terabytes free. You can see by the bar that it's darker on the left in that tiny section. This computer is having no space issues whatsoever. And then you can see below it the breakout of what is using up the storage space. So you can see system and reserved, that's the Windows operating system itself, temporary files, apps and games, other. But you can see this list and it will sort the highest used to the top. If this was a computer that was actually being used as opposed to something being used as a server, it would have a lot of documents, a lot of pictures, that sort of thing. And that will tell you where all of your space is going. This is for an Android device. You just go to settings, general storage, and then you can once again see the bar at the top, and then below it you can see the breakdown of where all of the storage is going. And then this is for iPhone. Just like the Mac, it has the bar at the top that's kind of color coded, and then underneath you can see where all of my storage has gone. And once again, none of these devices were anywhere near 80% full, so storage is not the issue. The other thing I'll say is, once again, before cleaning up a device by deleting files, I often like to make sure that I have a backup of that device just in case I accidentally delete something important. If you're on a Windows computer, it has this thing called disk cleanup. Oftentimes, whenever you install a Windows update, it will keep the old Windows update files just in case you need to revert. As you can see on the right-hand side, which I have highlighted, Windows Update Cleanup, 7.13 gigabytes. These can get fairly large. You can use disk cleanup in order to remove old Windows updates. Also, it will clear the trash and temporary files, that sort of thing. So you get to Windows disk cleanup by pressing the Windows key and typing cleanup, and it will be in the it'll be the top selectable option. And then you just hit run, and it will pull together all this information, and it will tell you how much storage space it's going to reclaim for you. So this is a pretty good first step if you want to remove or if you want to free up some space on your Windows computer. Okay, so this one is if your computer is getting really, really warm, you can definitely come in for this one. But if you're hearing your fan kind of try to take off, like it's doing its best impression of an airplane, or physically if the computer is getting very warm, there are options and there are programs you can use in order to get your computer's temperature for various aspects of it. On this one, you can see it does the CPU, it does the motherboard, it does the graphics card. It'll kind of tell you all this information. And basically the number will be in red if it's too high. And then okay, something is wrong. The computer physically is too warm. If you're at this point and doing this, feel free to come in on Wednesday. It's not the most straightforward thing, but I find it pretty straightforward. But it's one of those things where once you've done it once, it's very straightforward, but the first time it might be a bit confusing. Oh, in case you're wondering what to do if your Mac also has this process, it kind of does it automatically. The important thing is your Mac will only do this process if it is powered on, plugged in, and not in use. So you have to have your computer plugged in, turned on, and leave it overnight without using it, and it will run these cleanup things directly. All right. So check programs. One thing to do if your computer is running slow is to see what programs you have installed. Oftentimes people have programs installed 2-3 years ago that they have not used since. You can go to your task manager or activity monitor to see what programs are currently running that may be taking up space in terms of processing power. Windows, this is called Task Manager. Mac, this is called Activity Monitor. The other thing you can do is you can check the startup programs. These are really insidious in terms of taking up processing resource of your computer. They are computer programs that will, as soon as you turn your computer on, they will start. They won't necessarily open, but they will be running in the background constantly, and they just take up resources. So if you have, for example, Adobe on your computer, it will automatically start 2 different programs, even if you're not using Adobe. What you can do is you can go to Windows, Task Manager, Startup to see all the startup items, or on a Mac, you can go to Apple Menu, System Settings, General, and Login items. Now, turning these off from either startup or login items does not remove them from your computer. It just means if you want to use them, you have to open them. And again, this is if your computer feels slow. It may be because it has all of these programs running in the background that you don't even know about. If you find a program that you don't use, on Windows, you go to Settings, Apps, and then you can remove programs from there. On your Mac, you go to the Finder, which is the File Explorer application. You go to Applications, and you can just remove the programs by removing them or moving them directly to the trash, and Mac will automatically uninstall them through that process. Deleting programs is generally useful for reclaiming space, whereas stopping the startup programs is good for your computer's CPU usage, so how hard your computer is working. Another baseline thing, if your computer's acting slow, and that slow may include your computer's acting weird, you can always run Malwarebytes. This is for both Windows and Mac, and it's free. You don't need to use the paid version. You can download the free version. You can manually hit run, and it will automatically scan your entire computer and find any malware that it has in its repositories. It will then ask if you want to clean up the computer. You will hit yes, and it will remove the offending files. The reason why this oftentimes will speed up your computer is because malware takes up resources, apart from you just generally not wanting malware on your computer or device. Any questions on the vast amount of knowledge or information I just spoke towards you?
Yeah, Tim, way back in the beginning, when you're talking about cleaning, the screens and your keyboard, can you use the wet wipes or is that not a good thing to do?
So if you can use the wet wipes, it will say something about it being safe for electronic equipment on it. Like the package will say like safe for electronics.
Okay,
And there are companies that make wet wipes specifically for electronic devices. So the answer is a kind of.
you don't recommend it?
No, I recommend the ones where they are for electronic devices.
Okay,
Um, just I wouldn't trust that a unmarked package of wet wipes would be safe for my computer or phone or whatever. Cool. So the next thing is another generic statement of run computer updates. So the thing to remember is when computers and phones, when their operating systems are created, uh, they don't know the solutions to everything yet. We are essentially their testing unit to see what works and what doesn't, and we will oftentimes find bugs that they did not know were there. So as your operating system gets updates, um, some part of those updates are also going to make your device faster because it is removing or fixing problems that existed. So updates in general should make your computer perform better, your computer and your phone. Now, what can cause your computer to feel slower is if you get a massive update. For example, a massive update would be going from Windows 10 to Windows 11. Windows 10 required less resources to run than Windows 11. Functionally, you shouldn't notice a difference, but there will be an impact because it's 7 years newer. It's they try to make it as lightweight as they can, but they also want it to look fancy. So it takes a little bit more for your computer to use Windows 11 than it did for Windows 10. So massive updates like that, or like Mac jumping from version 15.6 to version 6.1, that's a big update. That can make your computer slower, but version 15.4 to 15.5 should only produce speed improvements in your computer. That being said, I always recommend to update your computer to the latest version within, 1 or 2 weeks of an update being out, purely because the other things an update will do is it will add security to your device. So run the updates. It shouldn't really slow down your device. The next thing you can do, and I highly recommend this one, but it isn't fun, is people will often say to me, well, my computer ran great when it was new.
yeah,
And I agree. So delete literally everything on your computer and make it brand new again. Um, the huge caveat to this is you want your computer backed up first because you will be deleting everything. But basically, it allows you to start fresh. If people had a button, I think, to in their 7-year-old car to say, "Hey, I want this to be just as it was when it went off the dealer lot," a lot of us would press that button. And essentially, starting fresh with the computer is us pressing that button. It's just annoying because unlike your car, your computer just accumulates things over time. Um, So it's kind of difficult and it's an annoying and time-intensive process to reset up your computer. In Windows, you would go to Start, then System, then Recovery, and you can select the reinstall option. And for Mac, you go to System Preferences, and erase all content and settings. Anyway, this will fix a lot of issues. This will also cause a massive issue because now you have to set up a brand new computer once again. So this is I don't know how to phrase it, but this is essentially an absolutely fantastic last resort.
Tim, how frequently would you suggest doing this?
I think you would be insane to do this after 1 or 2 years. This is more of like a year 3, year 4 kind of thing.
Tim, I've never done the system recovery. I prefer more to do, to delete data, delete programs, that sort of thing. Would you say that I'm kind of right not to do system recovery at all, or within less? I mean, I just have a new Windows 11 computer, and my
Yep.
Windows 10 computer is being retired.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong answer for that kind of context of that question.
Yeah.
The thing I will say is, from my point of view, I've seen computers where I will spend 5 to 10 hours figuring out what is wrong with it. And it takes me maybe 2 to 5 hours to build a computer from scratch. So it would have been more efficient for me if I had just rebuilt the computer from scratch. So I'm kind of coming at it from that context of starting fresh. You're starting fresh. You have none of the weird hangups of, oh, your computer, you bought it in 2018. In 2020, it got this update. 2021, you got this program. 2023, you got this update, which conflicts with this program, but that was from 2018. Like, none of that. It starts fresh, blank slate, and it'll be as fast as it possibly can be. So that's kind of the context I'm coming at, is it doesn't take an incredible amount of time to do it, compared to how long you can spend living with a computer that's a frustrating experience.
So you'd say not to run recovery unless there is some problem with speed or the system is really slow, something like that.
Yeah. If there's some sort of weird issue, that either it's frustrating you or you just notice it really is slow all the time,
Right.
starting fresh is a great option. There
Okay.
wouldn't be a time when I look at a 4-year-old computer and I think to myself, this computer is running great. I'm going to reset it. You know, this is something's weird with it. I don't want to think about trying to figure out what's weird. I'm just going to reset it.
Okay, so it's to solve a problem.
Yep. Yep.
Tim, can you do this with tablets?
Yes. Tablets and phones, you can do it as well. For Macs, it's a very similar process. You go to System, I think it might be General, and it'll be erase all content and settings. On an Android phone, I think it's just called Factory Reset. Yes, so you can do these on phones as well. Just once again, make sure all of the data is backed up first.
See, I have my wife's old phone. I don't remember any of the passwords or anything like that. Her old 2019 iPhone. So would it be better just to start from fresh to do the factory install? We'd lose out all the data, but we haven't used the data for over 2 years anyway. No
Yeah,
one's used.
so That's a good point. With phones, recently it's turned on by default. In the past, you had to manually turn it on, but oftentimes you will need a separate password in order for it to even allow you to reset the phone. If you remember, I forget how long, I'm going to say like 7 years ago, there was an issue where if you were wearing iPods, like, sorry, the ear pods for like an iPhone on the subway in New York. Basically, all that meant to someone on the subway was this person has an iPhone in their pocket. I'm going to steal it. And what they would do is they would steal it, they would then reset it, and then they would sell it. And they could do that. And basically, Apple was like, well, an easy way to fix this is to require the person's password in order to reset the phone to accept a new account. So basically, if an iPhone was stolen from that point on, they're stealing a brick that they can't do anything with.
Right.
So it became not a target. So with an older device, you do still need to know the passwords associated with the device in order to reset it. Fortunately and unfortunately.
Is there a way you can prove to Apple that you bought the computer and?
Yeah,
So
the process takes about a week.
a good, like tech drop-in.
Oh, right.
Yeah, conversation, if you wanted to bring that
Okay,
phone, then we
okay.
could like talk to Tim about that.
Yeah, okay, that might be better.
Yep, the process takes about a week.
Okay.
So everyone's favorite question, when should you replace your computer? And the statement for Windows computers is incredibly easy right now. If your computer is running Windows 10 and you can't update it to Windows 11, the answer is yes, it is time to replace your computer. In October, your Windows 10 computer will stop receiving Windows updates. Security updates specifically. So we are going to be running a class, I believe next month, on how to buy a new computer. If you want information on kind of what to look for, and we will also provide examples of like decent computers to buy. But so Windows 10, October, end of life, you need a new computer is a pretty general statement. Now, if we look on the right-hand side, the questions you should ask yourself are, can your computer get updates? If it gets updates and your computer feels like it's running well, no need to update it, no need to buy a new one. The next question is, how good was your computer brand new? And this is mostly to expectation set, right? If you bought a $300 Windows computer 5 years ago, it is going to, if it's performing its best, it's still not going to be that great. So just like lower your expectations, your computer may still be running at peak performance for it. But if you bought, a $2,000 computer a couple of years ago, it should be still 5 years later running great. So just, expectations set with the amount of money you spent can determine how long your computer will last. In general, yep.
And why the big disparity between years 4 to 10 and 3 to 7?
That's low end and high end. So, for a desktop, I say anywhere from 4 to 10 years, you can expect to have a good experience with your computer. If you spent a very low amount of money, you can expect to have a good experience for 4 years. If you spent a lot more money, you can expect to have a good experience for 10 years. It's kind of just setting expectations. If you bought a $400 desktop and 7 years in, you're complaining about how slow it is, it probably will be slow from that context. That being said, I'm not saying replace your computer after 4 or 3 years. I'm not saying keep your computer until 10 years. Every computer is its own special little device, and has its own little temperamental issues and when it should be replaced and shouldn't be replaced. The reason why I give the numbers is just so it's not an unexpected cost, right? Like if you go take your car to get a state inspection, which I guess you don't need to do anymore, and the person
Not until January.
yeah, and the person tells you, hey, we're gonna pass your car this year, but next year I would, it's gonna be a lot of work to keep it um, road legal, right? If they say that to you, that basically gives you a year to plan for a new vehicle. That's all I'm kind of trying to do with the years here, is I don't want people to, their computer's 11 years old and all of a sudden it's a massive surprise that they need to buy a new one, right? Computers have limited lifespans. Um, if you have a Mac, I would say the lifespan is a little bit longer than a Windows computer. But that is also because Mac manufactures their computer, so it's a set standard, whereas Windows can be from 100 different brands, and not all brands are created the same. So not all brands will last as long as other brands. So desktop, you're generally good for 4 to 10 years. Laptop, you're generally good for 3 to 7 years.
So
The Yes.
let me just ask, do you have any suggestions what to do with an old Windows 10 computer that was working fine, a Dell Vostrom? Um, it wasn't a cheap computer, but it's Windows 10. So I have a Windows 11 computer now, which is a new one. What should I do with the old one?
So there are a couple of different things.
Yeah.
The first thing you can do with an older computer that still works well, but won't receive updates, so it's not as secure, is you can use it offline. If you don't connect your computer to the internet, then it's not going to get new viruses introduced to it. So it can still be useful in that capacity. The other option is to um, open it up, take the hard drive, and hit the hard drive with a hammer.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. So,
You can also recycle them. And like after
Yeah.
you're worried about you can just take them to Staples and they recycle them.
Staples?
Mhm,
Yes.
yep, I've
Oh,
done
because
that.
the dump here charges.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I
Yep.
know I read about 4 old laptops. I just brought them into Staples and they took them.
Okay, so Staples, okay, that's,
And technically,
Yep.
they're supposed to destroy the hard drive, so, but you can always take it.
Staples and Best Buy generally have programs like that where they want to encourage you to bring in your old machine, and they will do it for free, mainly because that is a very cheap way to get you physically into their store
yeah,
and talking to somebody, and then hopefully you buy a new computer from them is kind of their reason of doing it. The
yeah.
other thing is they will have promotions sometimes a couple times a year where it will be bring in your old computer, um, recycle it with us, and we will give you $150 towards the purchase of a new computer. And that's generally around like Earth Day, things like that, to try and get people to recycle, but also to try and get people to buy a new computer from them.
Right,
Tim,
Thank you.
when you were talking about the quality of computers, laptops and desktops, how do we find out where the rating is for the ones that are supposed to be longer life?
Yeah, so in general, I recommend buying the business class of computer. Those are generally going to be the ones that last longer. So Dell just changed its verbiage. So I'm just using Dell as an example. I'm not saying you have to buy Dell. Um, So if I look at computers and I just look at laptops, view all laptops.
You know, the kids got me an HP.
Yep. So Dell has changed their nomenclature, but for example, they have Dell Pro Premium, Dell Pro Plus, Dell Pro, Dell Pro Essential. They did this name change to make it easier. They have Dell Pro Max. They did not succeed. But basically, Dell Plus can be considered to be like consumer. So a normal everyday person would buy it. But once you get into the Dell Pro is where it starts to be business class. You can't see me, but I just did the air quotes with my fingers. But if you have, but we will go over all of this in the next class, like specifically what different brands nomenclature is for business. But if you have a question or you're looking at buying a new computer, you can always like bring in the link to the computer that you're looking at, and you can talk to us on Wednesdays or an email or something, and I can quickly tell you like, yes, this is going to work really well for you, or I'll be able to say this actually is, you know, not to say lower tier, but this is a lower end laptop or desktop. You might have a better experience with this other model. But generally, if it says business in this context, Dell puts it under professional grade productivity. These will be a little bit more expensive, but they will last a little bit longer, and proportionally, the extra price is worth it for, in my opinion, is worth it for the increased longevity. That being said, I know it is more money up front, so I understand not going with a business style machine at all times.
And going back a step, how would I destroy the hard drive in a laptop?
Yep. So I'll just show an image. So in general, you'll flip the laptop over. If you're able to see this, oh, that's from a YouTube video. But if you're able to see this image on the right, you'll flip the laptop over. There will sometimes be a section that you can take off with a screwdriver that specifically houses the laptop. These days, you'll generally have to take off the entire bottom panel. Then you will find the laptop the hard drive. This is one example of what older style would look like. You'll just pull it out. You'll hit it with a hammer. And then you will put the cover back on. You will keep the hard drive, put the cover back on, and you will recycle it. The reason why you hit with a hammer is just so that no one can accidentally get your information. What can happen sometimes, and I'm not saying any company does it, not saying Staples or Dell do it, or the recycling center, anything like that, but computers can end up being refurbished and then put back out into the wild. And if they don't wipe the hard drive properly, or if they don't use a new hard drive, the next person who gets the computer can have access to what was on the computer before, which includes things like your cached passwords in your web browser, for example. So that's why I include the hammer in the order of operations.
Jim, you said, put it back together without the hard drive and recycle. What do you do with the hard drive?
You deal with that separately. You bring that to be recycled as well. You just keep it separate from the computer, hit it with a hammer, and then there isn't really an easy way for you to put it back in the computer after you've hit it with a hammer, is kind of the statement. And then this is what hard drives quote unquote will look like today in your computer if it's newer.
So, Tim, would it be just as easy to reformat the hard drive?
Yeah, yeah, you can reformat, but you have to do it in a specific way. So you have to essentially use a reformatting program that will wipe over the hard drive multiple times with random ones and zeros.
Oh,
The process generally will take like 4 hours to overnight, depending on the hard drive. And you also need to generally boot it from a separate utility in order to run the erase process.
right, okay, I got it.
Tim, I have a
Um,
question.
yep.
May I change the subject a little bit?
Go for it.
You were talking about Windows 10 and 11. And, I have the Outlook on my laptop. And I don't like the new Outlook. I like the Outlook Classic. But every time I go into Outlook, I have to click on Help and get to the Classic. And I think there's a way to eliminate the new Outlook and keep the old Classic.
So one of the problems you're running in, I have a question. Do you pay for Microsoft Office?
Yes,
Okay. So basically what's happening is with Windows 11, they renamed the Windows Mail app. They renamed it to Outlook,
yes.
which is why it, for lack of a better way, why it sucks. Um, so the process is going to be you have to go into your Microsoft account in your web browser, and you will need to go to programs that I own, and then you will need to download Outlook from there. Because if you are messing around with it on the computer, specifically using what's considered new Outlook, it will always try to revert to new Outlook. You need to kind of like do it separately to get the full featured Outlook on the computer.
Yeah, I think I did that.
Yeah, it's kind of annoying. The other problem is if you try to delete the new quote unquote Outlook, the next time Windows updates, it may bring it back anyway. So it's a very annoying losing battle.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions about keeping your device working well? And like I said, always, Tim is here Wednesdays 1 to 2. So you can always, if you have a specific question, come in for
In person.
in person, yeah. Yeah. All right,
Thank you.
Tim,
Thank you,
Thank you,
Tim.
Tim.
Thank you.
awesome, thank you, Tim.
That's really great.